Sure. Hello. Okay. Finally, we are here. Let me make sure I can look at the comments. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. Let me see if this is up, and then we can get started. Hey, Avery. Yay. Okay. Y'all, to put this together was a lot. Hey, Kira. It was just, I'm glad that I'm on right now, because it took a little while to get everything set up. Okay. Hey, Dee. Yay. All right. So today we are going to be reacting to. Thanks, Dee. Okay, so DC, she actually helped me to get this figured out, because I could not. Ended up switching things a little bit as far as to how we're sharing the screen, but it worked overall. So thank you so much. So we are gonna watch and react to a former distributor from Young Living who left Young Living to join doTERRA. She left for a variety of reasons, and she explains in this call why she left. This was a public call. It's been shared publicly, so I'm not going to. I tried to blur, but with everything going on, I didn't get a chance to do that. But that being said, please don't reach out to any of the people on the Zoom. Please don't reach out to harass or anything like that. We don't do that here. Hey, Sky. Lots of trial and error. So please don't reach out to these people. And I might go back once it's playing, or after this is done and everything, and try to blur it in the YouTube studio part of it. But it's a distributor who is talking about why she left Young Living and why she joined doTERRA. So we want to support her in leaving Young Living. Young Living is going through a lot right now. I would not be surprised if they didn't last much longer. But yeah, I'll blur after the fact. Hey, Lynn, thank you so much for being here. Where was I going with that? Yeah, so we're happy that she has left Young Living. We want to support that. Totally not so happy about her going to doTERRA, but it's understandable for people who are just kind of in that mindset, still distributor, still wanting to be involved in multi-level marketing. It takes a lot to have them for them to leave, for a lot of people. Some people just like switch all of a sudden, and other people take a little bit of time. So we want to support that. And yeah, I guess that's it. I had a couple of notes. Yeah. All right. She does share about Gary Young and his antics, his history, as far as what he, like, just his children and his delivering of them and how they didn't make it. So just content warnings on Gary Young's history. For a lot of anti-MLM people, they're going to be aware of a lot of what she talks about with Gary. I thought this was really interesting, because this distributor, she had shared on her stories asking other distributors if they knew about all of this information regarding Gary Young, and apparently a lot of them said they didn't. And so that's partially why she ended up talking about this stuff and sharing this information, because while a lot of this information is already known to anti-MLM activists, people in the anti-MLM community, a lot of it is not known to Young Living distributors. And that is because there is that information control aspect of things. Even when I was in my company, it was not Young Living, but we were encouraged to go to Upline and ask the questions. If we heard anything sketchy information about the company from outside, we were encouraged to ask our distributor or our Upline about that. And so they just don't know this information. So let's go ahead. I'm going to share the screen. Finally. Okay, and I'm going to make it where, whoops. Ah! There we go. Is it? Let me, hold on. Why did it go better before? Okay. Share the screen. YouTube, share audio. Perfect. Okay. And I just want full screen on here, not on, I just want to share like a little part of it though, not the whole screen. Well, I guess that works. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead. Let me put it on 1.5 because it's like 2 hours long. So, all right, let's get started.
Oh, I can blur my background. That's cool. All this sticky stuff.
Okay, she's just kind of talking about things before she starts.
I'm also curious how many people are still with Young Living and how many have left or never been part of it. Utah left in February. Around the time you left, Jenny. Mm-hmm. Let's get some subscription last night.
Where would I be without y'all?
I'm excited about this. I'm like nervous and excited. I'm telling you, I sent you guys a picture of me this morning looking like a
Hey, Xana.
I do shower. It's been 2 days. I gotta put this core documents down and you need to go get a shower.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's 12:05. People are still coming in. I'm assuming at this point they just automatically can get into our Zoom meeting, right? I don't have to actually.
Well, if they go in the waiting room, Allie, I'll just let people in so
Perfect.
you can start.
All right. Sounds good. Let me close this chat. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know this topic has been a very sensitive one, and a lot of people have questions that either they have felt uncomfortable to ask, afraid to ask, or have asked and never got a direct answer. So we're just here to go over the things that we have found out, things that have.
Also, a quick note. I don't think I mentioned this, or maybe I did briefly, but this is, thanks we're watching this with Mambi's help. Thankfully, someone was able to share this with her and she got it uploaded. Thank you so much. We would not have a lot of background, just anti-MLM content information, specifically right now. A lot we're focused on Young Living. And so thank you so much, Mambi, Kira, so much for just sharing all of the resources that you're able to find. And if any of y'all are not following her already, be sure you follow her. She is very active on Facebook and also on her website.
Raised major red flags for us and kind of just set us on a path of searching for something different. And also because of the platforms that we run, the things that we found out, we couldn't just keep them hidden for many reasons. We speak on seeking the truth, doing your own research, ask questions, get your answers, so that you can make your own decision, right? Don't let anybody speak for you or not give you the freedom to know more, right? And then another, we on a daily basis pray for the Holy Spirit to lead us, right? To use our words to bless others, to guide others, to help them find that truth, because we live in a world with so much noise, so much negativity, so much deception that you've seen the past 2 years, especially, the devil has just been hard at work causing chaos. So with that being said, again, thanks for being here. I just want to make a statement that none of us have a legal contract with Young Living. Everything that we share here is.
I'm not going to talk too much about whenever she brings up kind of her beliefs and spiritual kind of side of things, just because that's where her beliefs are. I will say though that Jess has actually shared this several times, but there's a website, I believe it's called Christians Against MLMs. Jess, if you know that off the top of your head, feel free to share that in the chat. But it kind of breaks down or talks about some arguments against MLMs. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can check that out.
It's public record. You can freely search this for yourself. Nothing is hidden. You don't have to have some special, rank or title to find these things. It's all just given to you to read. Once this meeting is done, the recording of it will be posted for you guys to view later. And also, all the links, all the court documents, all the articles will be linked in the description of this meeting. So you have them all. So you're not just taking our word for it. You can actually sit back at home and do your own research, which we always tell you guys, do your own research. Don't just take anybody's word for it and, just trust us. Obviously, do your own research. So I have more people coming in. So we're going to go ahead and get started. All right. First, I want to talk about Gary Young. And because on my Instagram page, I have put up a poll asking people, do you know who Gary Young is? Do you know his story? Have you ever heard about him? And majority of people said only what my Young Living leaders have told me. So just like me, I have joined a very good Young Living team. That's one thing I really want to say, that I was part of a very good team. Team of people who have encouraged everybody, who have supported, and provided, classes and education, and we're just really there for you to win. So I want to make that clear, that not everybody doing Young Living is there to get people or to be a bully or to mistreat people. That's the culture that has been kind of set, and that's what people see, but there are good people in there. So when I put up the poll again, they just said, whatever my leader told me is that the story that I know. I'm like, okay, well, let's research Gary Young. Let's see who he is and see a little bit about his life. So I have a lot of notes. If you see me looking down, I'm reading off of my notes because there's a lot of information. And I'll stop. I was going to do a screen share, so if I'm able, I will show you guys like snippets of newspaper articles, court documents. Again, the print on them might be a little bit too small for you to actually see. That's why we're going to attach links to everything for you to actually review it after this.
Let me if this is too fast for anybody, let me know. I think it's at a good speed, especially because of how long the total video is. But yeah, I hope y'all can understand it, like speed-wise.
So Donald Gary Young was born on July 11th, 1949, into a ranching family in Idaho. So Jenny was born in Idaho. His father raised grain, hay, and livestock, and his mother worked part-time for several years in a local drugstore. The second oldest of 6 children, Young grew up in a Mormon household and from a young age was drawn to the outdoors. After graduating from high school in 1967, he briefly worked for the U.S. Forest Service. He then moved to Canada, where he homesteaded 320 acres of land for ranching and lodging. In April 1968, he met a woman named Donna Jean, and 6 months later, he married her. I think Donna Jean is not mentioned very often because that's his ex-wife. So understandably, his past, but they had 6 children together. So one of Young's early beliefs was that babies delivered underwater seemed to be immunized against various illnesses. He personally delivered 4 of his 6 children with Donna Jean underwater without the help of a medical professional. In September of 1982, the 7th child, a baby girl named Rachel, died in a bath while Young attempted to deliver her at a health club he operated in Washington, according to court records and newspaper clippings. So that was not just a story that was told, without proof. There's a spoken article writing that the man was arrested on medical charge, and also it was addressed in the court documents. I'm just gonna keep this on my screen share. So County Colonel Louis Shanks told the Spokesman Review in 1983 that the baby girl remained underwater for almost an hour before she was removed, and that she probably would have lived if delivered under more conventional methods. It was a perfectly normal, healthy girl, Shanks said. So one thing, I'm gonna just be as transparent with you guys as when I was reading, I was like, okay, well, that kind of doesn't make sense. I see why. So this is what I'm gonna do here. I'm not gonna just bash on Gary, right? So right here, they said, okay, well, she probably would have lived if she was delivered under more conventional methods. Okay, what do you mean probably would have lived? Like, did she have other issues that could potentially cause her death? Or she died because he drowned her, So he was not, charges were not pressed because at the end, the infant's death certificate attributed the death to cardiac arrest, not drowning. So no charges were pressed. And you know what? Also, it's a very obviously sad thing to lose a child. And if he has delivered, this was his last child that he delivered in an accident happened. I mean, I'm sure that Gary has already lived through a lot of pain and emotion to also have people on social media bash him about it. You know what I mean? So, since there was no conviction of murder or manslaughter, we're going to go with the report that the baby died of cardiac arrest. Young's son Sean and another son Matthew, so those were the kids that he had with Donna Jean, both from that marriage, said that the father never mentioned Rachel, the baby that drowned. Also back then, like in the 80s, how were a lot of people delivering at home. If you think about it right now, if you even get on social media, there's so many women encouraging the water birth under supervision of midwives, and they're just empowering women to do that. So in the 80s, how was that? Were a lot of people delivering at home? Were a lot of fathers delivering their own babies? So
Just a side note, I didn't know how controversial delivering at home and underwater versus going to a hospital was until I was dealing with that. I chose to go to a hospital, no questions, and I'm glad I did, because there would have been issues if I did not, because everything had to move really fast. And yeah.
Young was never charged in his daughter's death, which was ultimately attributed to cardiac arrest. Like I said, the incident did spark alarm among authorities. So that's when authorities started to look into Gary Young, because he delivered that baby again at a place where he practiced medicine. So they're still looking into.
All right. Did you hear her talk about how he delivered that baby at a place that he practiced medicine? If anyone doesn't know, Gary Young was not Dr. Gary Young. He was just Gary Young. He is not a licensed medical professional. Where is the audio coming from? Let's see. I have on echo cancellation. Let's see. I have the mic as a Yeti microphone, speaker as default. Is that from the Zoom? Potentially. Yeah, it could be from the Zoom. Yeah, Emery. Hi, Emery, by the way. But yeah, no. I want to have medical professionals there for anything. He shouldn't be practicing medicine, period. Absolutely.
Him because, you know, he did not have an obstetric license. He performed delivery, so they raised a red flag. In the court documents, it did mention, again, like I said, that he had 6 children, and then the delivered child, and due to complications, the child was rushed to the hospital and died 2.5 hours after birth.
Yeah, Boo sent me that cease and desist. I was so stressed. Started to get just like those contractions that weren't actual ones, like for the time necessary. They're just from stress. I had so much stress back then.
Again, when I read that, I'm like, okay, the court document said she died at a hospital, but then the stories we hear said that she drowned at home and was dead in the pool. Did not align. Okay, let's move on. In 1983, the Spokesman Police Department launched an undercover investigation into Gary Young, sending police officers posing as pregnant couple to seek medical advice. Young offered them prenatal services and told them he could treat cancer. So right there, where kind of red flags started to pop up. So okay, he decided to deliver his own children, which is, you know, your freedom to do as you wish. But then he didn't stop there. He was offering those prenatal services to couples coming to him to his clinic. He was arrested for practicing medicine without a license and pleaded guilty. He received a year of probation and was ordered to not to engage in the practice of medicine in Washington, not to violate similar licensing laws in other states, and to serve 60 days in a Spokane County jail. I believe I might have those articles in me, but I will attach those 4 documents in the book because you haven't printed out. The next thing was, let's go back 10 years. And in February of 1973, so this was 10 years before he pleaded guilty and was charged. At the age of 24, he suffered a near-fatal lodging accident. And this story is known to probably, 99% of Young Living people, right? Because that's how the story of how Young Living was born and started. So in a book that Mary Young wrote, so Mary was not even present for the accident, but she does writes about it in the book that she wrote about Gary. And it's the Blue Books, is Gary Young, written by Mary Young. In that book, I do have pictures of that. If you were in my Instagram stories, you saw me asking if somebody has the book and can send me screenshots, because I needed proof and I needed to see it for myself, and somebody did send it to me. So screenshots of those pages where she says, at 24 years of age, on February 8, 1973, Gary suffered a very severe lodging accident when a cut tree shredded off and hit him in the head, resulting in 3 open skull fractures, a ruptured spinal cord in 3 places that was classified as an incomplete break, 11 ruptured discs, 16 broken and or crushed vertebra, a broken pelvis, the right scapula broken in 9 pieces, a severe brachial plexus, and 19 broken bones. I mean, that's a big accident, right? That's a lot of broken bones and skull fractures. He suffered from intense paralysis and intense pain. And then he or she goes on to saying that, look right here, Gary spent 27 months in a wheelchair before learning to walk again. And then after 253 days of only drinking water and lemon, so she says that his depression was so deep that he tried to commit suicide twice. And then in his 3rd attempt, he decided to fast, quote, himself to death with this lemon water, which you're about to learn where he got that idea from.
Wait, how many days? 200. What did she say?
With this lemon.
253 days of only drinking water and lemon juice. What? No. What else was he having? Y'all.
Water, which you're about to learn where he got that idea from. There's a picture of the book where it says that he spent 27 months in a wheelchair before learning to walk. Okay. So Gary was told he'd never walk again. He tried to kill himself, and he was trying to fast himself to death, which moving forward, you'll understand why that was not the case. The experience, according to Mary, sparked Young's distrust of the medical establishment. His doctors had consigned him to a life in a wheelchair. It was only through fasting that he found his way back to health. Because he couldn't go back to lodging and farming, Mary wrote, his mind began exploring different avenues of healing through the world of books. Well, that's actually not what happened, because the court documents talk about this very accident. Let me see if I have those. Okay, I will attach those too. So the court documents say that, actually I have them over right here. Don and Donna Jean maintained a lifestyle until February of 1973. So this accident happened when he was married to his first wife. So Mary was not present for this accident, right? So is she retelling Gary's story? Well, obviously she's retelling Gary's story, but this is what the court says. Don was involved, and this is from personal background, education, and employment history, right? It was Washington State against Gary Young. So Don was involved in a serious lodging accident and was hospitalized, listen to this, from February to June 1973. 1973 a result. He spent from June until October in a wheelchair. So that's what? June, July, August, September, October. That's 5 months, not 27 months. And that's court documents against Mary's perception of the story or whatever story Gary's telling her, right? So he spent 5 months in a wheelchair. During that time, he started a home study correspondence course in nutrition and herbology, studying particularly degeneration diseases and body rejuvenation. Don was able to start using crutches in early November and kept working on his physical therapy. So 6 months after his car accident, after he lodged an accident, he was able to get on crutches and work on his physical therapy. And then same year, December of the same year, he went and got a part-time job driving a chip truck, whatever that is, working for a lumber company in Vermont, in Columbia. And then in February of 1974, he moved to driving a lodging truck. In May 1974, he owned his own lodging truck and started working as an independent lodging trucker. So you see how court documents don't align with the story Mary wrote in this book about Gary from my opinion, when I read it, to play on emotions of a lot of people.
There you go, bingo, to play on the emotions of a lot of people. 8 to 21 days, typically 10 days, few weeks, several weeks max, not over 200 days not having substance, not having food. I don't believe Gary.
Because if you can make people feel like they can relate with you, or if they have been through a similar tragic accident, you kind of win that trust with them. So during that time, Young grew increasingly drawn to the alternative health world. In 1979, following another accident, he enrolled at the Burroughs Vida Flex Institute, an uncredited school dedicated to the teaching of Stanley Burroughs, who was convicted of a second-degree murder and on a felony charge of practicing medicine without a license. In 1981, after a cancer patient died from his treatment, Stanley Burroughs, however you pronounce his name, published a book called Healing for the Age of Enlightenment. That's the book. See the cover of it. If you know anything about the Star of David and how it ties into the occult, here he's using like the colors and the frequencies. But that was the book he wrote, The Age of Enlightenment. So he also wrote a book that's called The Master Cleanser. Now listen to this. The Master Cleanser, there's some noise coming through. Okay, so his second book was The Master Cleanser. If you've heard of that, using water, lemon juice, red pepper, and maple syrup to detox. When I was researching that, the first name that popped up was Beyonce. Like she was the one kind of, raving about this diet that helps you lose weight and detox. But so if you go back to Mary's story, saying that he, tried to attempt suicide and then he tried to starve himself through this cleanse, was Gary literally trying to starve himself, or was he genuinely just trying out this cleanse and diet of the book that he, of this guy he was studying under? So that again felt like was an over-exaggerated story of what actually was going on.
So Gary learning from other grifters, other people who just aren't accredited, aren't just misinformation all the way. People in 70s and the 80s weren't having home births unless you lived in the middle of nowhere. That makes sense. And I cannot imagine. I had a C-section, so I can't. That sounds scary. I'm so glad that I was not born decades earlier. In the wise words of Bailey Sarian, get better, idols. Yes, please. I have no idea how long we can live. I guess that would depend on if you had water, a way to have water without getting all the salt, how much fluid you had on the boat. Yeah, and how much covering you would have if you would be directly in the sun. That is something that I do not wish to test out. Oh no. Amy, I'm glad that's in your past as far as like you're done with that. not moving forward. Okay.
Once again, I feel like playing on emotions of people who, and this is a very sensitive subject to me, suicide and depression, because I have come out of that dark place, and it's never okay to try to manipulate those emotions and make people somehow relate with you. And if that was done, like, that's just not okay. So whether he was trying to starve himself to death with this cleanse or simply doing a cleanse because he was studying under the writer and the publisher of that cleanser. So let's talk about this. So this Stanley guy, there's also, right here, there's Supreme Court of State of California. He was also charged, like I said, with practicing medicine without a license and second-degree murder. You'll see kind of the pattern of Gary and the people he studied under being convicted of same exact crimes, right? And then according to court records, Young also attended Don Bach, I feel like he was a German guy, so that's how you pronounce it, Don Bach Nutrition University, yet another unaccredited school in Huntington Beach, California, from 1979 until 1981. Now, this individual, Kurt Donbach, has an interesting story too. He was also convicted, and there was court records against him in California and San Diego. So he was an unlicensed chiropractor and controversial alternative medicine figure who has twice been convicted of practicing medicine without a license. He
wasn't just a chiropractor. He was an unlicensed chiropractor. No, at least be licensed. Oh man.
Face charges of misbranding drugs for sale, kind of like misbranding or like relabeling things. Unlawfully dispensing drugs as a cure for cancer, tax evasion, practicing medicine without a license, and falsely presenting a cure for cancer. Well, one thing looking at this, I do want to point out that cancer is like a huge topic. You know, in big pharma medicine, if anybody says they have any type of cure, they get silent shut down, because I believe that cancer is a big giant, just a money-making machine for big pharma and the government. So,
just a note, we are happy that she is out of Young Living, but there are just some kind of things that can stay with them as far as nutrition or medical misinformation, disinformation. So, most of the time, if there is a cure for cancer being spoken about or anything, they're shut down because they're not evidence-based, not because they actually work. And we know this. There's a lot of people who still do those kind of alternative approaches that cures, and it doesn't, and I put that in quotes, and doesn't really do so well in the end, unfortunately. A lot of people have their it's really frustrating. And I've spoken about this a couple times on few different videos, but sometimes we feel like we do get shut down by doctors and just, Western medicine. And that is not, it's an issue with how our healthcare is kind of set up and how there isn't that kind of access. And there's just a lot of things that impact that, but it's not that the doctors are trying to like gatekeep that information in particular. With pharmaceuticals, there's a lot of issues on that side. And that's one of the reasons why I think that Mark Cuban is doing some really great things with his business and providing the access to necessary medications for much lower cost. So we can approach things like that. There are some concerns. Of course, it's not, perfect or anything, but I don't believe that there is some kind of conspiracy that they're trying to shut that down or anything. Anytime I hear the words like big pharma, that's kind of a red flag. Right. Yes, they would. There would be so much money and recognition. And yeah, absolutely. Right. We need to know how to do solar in case you end up there. right. There's so much research going on, and so many people want that. And so, yeah.
That he was sentenced to that, and then Dunbach was charged and found guilty of tax evasion. Like, that's a different story, right? Like, you were convicted of practicing without a license, saying you can cure cancer, but now there's also tax evasion and the smuggling of illegal medications in 1996. On April 9, 2009, Dunbach was arrested during his internet radio health show and charged with 11 felony counts, including dispense of unapproved drugs. San Diego judge ruled there was enough evidence for the case against him to proceed to trial. He faced up to 12 years and 8 months if convicted. The case ended with a plea deal with him facing up to a year in jail, followed by probation. And then he just didn't stop there. And that's again the track record you'll see with Gary as well. On December 13, 2010, Dunbach pleaded guilty to 13 additional felony charges, including practicing medicine without a license and selling misbranded drugs. So it's like this guy gets slapped on the hand, I mean, they do time in jail, and they come out and they continue to do the same thing. So here is where you'll see how Gary Young, we're going to read some court documents on this one. You see who he was studied under, right? Two people who ran unaccredited institutes and getting his degree through them. Well, Gary Young also said he earned a doctorate in naturopathy between 1982 and 1985 at Bernadette University, also unaccredited. This university recently, well, I don't know how recent, but this university, what I found out, shut down because, so they were out of California, no, they were out of Nevada, but their post office address was in California. So in California, press charges shut them down for pretty much giving out these diplomas that anybody could get. And as of now, they have reopened, but they changed their name and still operating. The postal code, like I said, was in Los Angeles, operating under a different name. And again, I'll leave all the links for you guys so you can look for them yourself. In the early 1980s, Young and Dungy moved to Spokane, Washington, where they opened an herbal shop and nutrition center, according to court records. While there, Young spent 10 weeks at Spokane Community College, taking pre-med courses and studying at the American Institute of Psychology of Neurology. And Mike Maher, who founded and operated the institute, told the spokesman review in 1986 that Gary Young had left after attending only a few classes, doing a third of his homework, and owing Maher $800 in tuition. So Gary, after his accident, set on this journey of learning, getting these degrees that were from non-legit institutes, or he would go in, maybe get as much as he wanted to get out of it, and then leaving without paying his tuition or actually receiving a degree. In 1983, while on probation for practicing medicine without a license, Young established a health company in the San Diego area, selling products like vitamins, extracts, mouthwash, and a book written by Gordon. So that Enlightenment book was sold by Gary at the San Diego place. He also opened a clinic in Rosita Beach Clinic across the border in New Mexico that claimed to specialize in degenerative diseases. He listed himself in the clinic brochure as the medical director, adding that he relocated to Mexico following harassment from the orthodox medical profession. So he's on probation in all these states, Washington and California, and then he goes to Mexico, opens a clinic there, continues to do his practice or heal people, whatever he's doing, and he's saying that, they're harassing me, and that's why I have to go to Mexico. Kind of like
they're harassing you because you're practicing without a license. Fake diplomas seem popular, yes, and not just Young Living. My top upline in the company that I was in, Juice Plus, she was a PhD level dietitian, and her PhD, found out later, was from a diploma mill. And yeah. Oh no, that sounds awful. Exploiting her cancer treatment, villainizing modern medical care while promoting her oils and enemas. Ugh. Yeah, there's a lot of people who have experience with just seeing that being done, or having family members with cancer, and having people kind of jump in and try to sell them things. I know when my dad was dealing with leukemia, he was in the hospital, and he never made it out. But someone was trying to sell us water, which now looking back almost 10 years later, I realized that was an MLM, a Nagic probably. I didn't know how old that is, but yeah, they were trying to sell us water to cure him. Yeah.
We'll get to that, but the mentality that you see culture right now, like, you can't question us, don't ask questions, just do what we say. I know better, you're not smart enough. That's kind of how, this is where it kind of coming from, right? He offered a variety of therapies and treatments at his clinic. One of them was a 21-day cancer program in 1987. It cost $6,500 and $15,000 in 2020, in addition to like a $280 a week for a room. desperate people were willing to take a chance on Young's alternative methods. Again, I don't know if he genuinely wanted to help people or he was just so full of his, I don't know. Oh, that was hard to judge. Like, was he genuinely trying to help or he was just following this trace of his education, so-called, and this money? I think it was more about him than anything else.
I don't think, this is just my opinion. I want to make this very clear. I don't think that he wanted to help in that part of things, because if he was charging that much, where it comes out to $15,000, but in that time area, in that year, that is, you don't have to make that much. Or if you really just wanted to help someone, you could charge them exactly what it would be to like run, I guess, or to, you know, have some place to stay while you were there or whatever. I don't know. I doubt that it covered just what he was trying to cover overhead. That sounds very expensive. So in my opinion, I think there was some exploitation intentionally going on, but that is just my opinion. I can't prove that.
Again, the law caught up with him in 1988. California filed a complaint against Young. In 1988, Young was arrested by the Seattle Police Department over a parole violation stemming from the Washington criminal case. He ultimately spent about a month in jail. You'll see all those court cases that you can go through yourself, like I said.
And Young Living, don't come after me for that, please. I'm just saying that, like, if somebody wanted to really, really, really help people with any kind of conditions going on, can you do some kind of sliding scale? Can you do some kind of pro bono work? Can you do something else that's not like charging that much? Could you do where maybe that some people who have those resources would be charged that, but then you would offer like that sliding scale for other people? I'm just saying that, and I give those examples of like, that is one way if people really do want to help people in that way. When I see those extremely high costs, I have some red flags. I have some questions.
Same year, Young faced a third lawsuit filed in Superior Court of San Diego, brought against him by a former Rosarita Clinic employee who alleged he gave Young and his second wife, so he was married 3 times, Mary Young was his third wife, his second wife named Dixie, I believe. So this employee gave them $100,000 intended for clinic development, but they instead kept for their personal use. The complaint also claimed that Young stole corporate funds and failed to distribute insurance payments that had been made to the clinic and was supposed to be reimbursed back to patients. 2 years later, Young was ordered to pay $100,000 to the former employee. I don't know if you guys heard the story of this blood samples that were sent in of a cat and a chicken to that clinic, but I was reading the story. It was kind of funny because this blood samples were sent to Rosita Beach Clinic, and so you get a kit in the mail from his clinic, and you're supposed to prick your finger, put your 5 blood spots on each slide, like you get a slide with it, you put your blood on it, and then you send it back to a clinic, and along with $60 payment, right, to run diagnosis. Well, a Times reporter prepared 2 slides, so this was another undercover thing. A Times reporter prepared 2 slides using blood from a healthy 7-year-old and 20-pound tabby cat named Boomer that belonged to Glendale veterinarian Ahmed Kalek. The slides were presented at the clinic by the reporter, who identified himself as a prospective patient. Sharon Reynolds, health educator at the clinic, is in quotation of health educator, who also casts horoscopes for patients for $50 each. So she works at this Gary's clinic, right? Examine the slides under a microscope that projects, oh my gosh, maybe I just got this up. Anyway, so sorry about that, guys. I'll attach the story for you to look at. But anyway, she looks at the slides and she sees blood and she goes back and she says, okay, there's an aggressive cancer in it. When it was a blood of a cat, right? Then they said, okay, in a couple of weeks do follow-ups and another sample in, we'll run it again. And then this time he sends a sample of a chicken, and then she comes back with, okay, there's leukemia present, but it's not aggressive or something. And then they told like this, they actually sent the sample to a vet, and the first thing the vet said, like, this is not human blood, this is chicken blood, what's going on? And when they came back to tell her, she said, well, how would I know? I've never seen chicken blood. So the whole story is just, it's crazy. You'll read it for yourself. The last thing I want to talk about it.
Yeah, the chicken and cat blood thing. And it's wild that so many Young Living distributors didn't know that, though, and how that was used in, they were trying to diagnose them with cancer and these issues, and it wasn't human blood, but they didn't have Gary didn't have the expertise to realize that and know that there was an issue. Hello, Eloise. I love your name, by the way. And if you're on 1.5, you're going to be listening to the Zoom on like 3 because this is on 1.5.
Is Gary's degree. And this was recent, well, not recent, 2007 or 8, whenever the latest lawsuit was between them and another company. But this was verbatim. I'm going to read to you from court documents. He is being questioned, Gary, on stand under oath. And here's what he's being asked. Not the last thing, but we broke the last time. I was trying to find out your degrees. Did you remember what the school was in Toronto that you claim you got your bachelor's degree from? And Gary answers with, I didn't look. So the attorney says, do you have any other degrees you forgot to tell us about that you claim you obtained any time? And he says, yes, I have a master's degree and I have a naturopathic degree. And the attorney asked from Bernadine, said yes, and that is all, yes. Well, don't you claim that you got another naturopathic degree from a school called the Sacred Medical Order of the Church of Hope from the Virgin Islands? And he answers, I don't recall that. You don't recall going and talking to Dr. Hill with you you don't recall going and taking Dr. Hill with you to your graduation where you were knighted from the Sacred Medical Order of the Church of Hope. Do you remember that? Put a little sword on your shoulder, knighted you in graduation. And he answers, no, Dr. Hill, no. The question follows, well, let me see if I understand. You do now recall graduating from this school and being knighted, but you don't recall Dr. Hill being there. Is that what you're saying? He said, no. So neither one. You did not go to graduation with the Sacred Medical Order of the Church of Hope to get a new doctor's degree, or it didn't happen. And he said, I don't recall the name. So he's like avoiding answering the actual question. So then attorney says, wait a minute, are you now saying there was another doctor's degree you claim you got, and you just now don't remember the school either? And Gary said, I've been given a couple honorary degrees, I don't remember that one. You're claiming this is an honorary degree, is that what you're saying? He said, I don't recall. Then the question goes, you've used that title from this school when you speak publicly from time to time, correct? He said, no. You claim to be Sir Gary, right? Gary answered, that is correct. And then he said, and you claim to have a diplomatic passport issued to you by the Sacred Medical Order of the Church of Hope located in the Virgin Islands. He said, that is not correct. The question goes again, you tried to get a bachelor's degree. Again, this degree was conferred upon you whether it was since Dr. Hill has been in the company, correct? And he said, I don't recall. And then that term pretty much just drops the question and says, you know what, envision, whatever they say. Like, I'm waiting to answer the question and they close the case.
If somebody is proud of their education, just their background and everything, they're not going to have a problem with telling you exactly what school they went to, where they graduated from, right? No. Just an example, I went to Texas A&M University, and then I went to Oakwood University. Yeah.
So, when I was just looking through all of this and what am I trying to say? The people he studied under, the kind of things that they were operating under, like the unaccredited schools, treating people, getting convicted of murder, losing their license, and then obviously trickles down from the top.
Hey, Elizabeth. Okay, so this is a former Young Living distributor who left Young Living and went to doTERRA. And she is doing a Zoom call to let everybody know about Gary's history. Some of the stories that she is talking about has been known in Ansem Alem, but she is talking to a lot of her Young Living distributors. And so a lot of them don't know this information. So we're just watching her talk about sharing all the tea about Gary, and then she's going to recruit later.
Right? If you're under that leadership and you're under that teaching, you're going to essentially do the same thing, because you pick who you study under, you pick your leaders. And if that's who he was influenced by, then it makes sense that he was just hopping from state to state, having problems with the law, avoiding being responsible for his actions and just continuing to do the same thing. So now that we talked about Gary and covered some stories that you all heard on social media, I want to talk about the birth of actual Young Living Company. So according to Mary Young's telling, Young was first introduced to essential oils by a Swiss woman named Anna Marie, who brought her sick sister to his research center in Mexico in 1983 seeking help. She provided Young with an envelope of research, translated from French, about essential oils. Fascinated, he stayed up all night reading, and following day said he wanted to know more. That moment, the book said, served as a genesis of Young's quest. So that's, again, I'm assuming from the book that Mary wrote about him. But in the late 1980s, according to court records, Young started a company called Young Life International, and he used a multi-level marketing plan to sell products like Colon Aid, a combination of herbs, trace minerals, and herbal essential oils, which work together to help rid the body of toxins, liver tone, and in 1980, pamphlet promoting liver tone and Colon Aid referred to Young as Dr. Young. So if you notice, nobody ever calls him Donald or Don, that's his actual first name, right? But you always see D. Gary Young, because that's They used to write Dr. Young, but then they had to remove the R because he's not an actual doctor, but they left the D in it. So whenever even I like read something about him and I see D, I automatically, oh, Dr. Young. Oh no, hold on, he's not a doctor. But they purposely don't write out his whole name. So that's when Young met his third wife, Mary, in 1993 Expo and Salt Lake City, that his empire began its march towards domination in the alternative health business. A former opera singer, never knew she was an opera singer, kind of cool, but Mary had previously worked at another multi-level marketing company called Sunwriter International and brought her direct selling chops to Young's operation. So of course, me being curious, I went to look at this company, Sunwriter, that Mary worked for, and it started in 1982 in Utah. It was a multi-level marketing company owned by Dr. Oil Lin Chen, and so it was two spouses. Well, in 1995, the Chens, were owners of this company, were charged with orchestrating a tax customs fraud scheme to evade tens of millions of dollars in taxes. They were indicated by a federal grand jury on 20 counts, charging them with conspiracy, once again, tax evasion, filing of false corporate tax returns, and smuggling. In 1997, the Chens entered into a plea bargain with the court on the charges of tax evasion and customs fraud. Tay Fu Chen served nearly a year in a minimum security prison, while his wife, Li Chen, served 6 months of home detention. The couple paid over $100 million in back taxes, interest, and penalties, and an additional $4 million to avoid forbidding the items that were accused of smuggling and undervaluing. So that's the company that Mary came from and worked for. Met Gary, and she kind of brought her experience, right, with her. A former Young Living employee told Insider that Mary held herself out as an expert at multi-level marketing. I think in reality, this is quote, and when I was reading all this research, they made a statement right away that a lot of these people wanted to stay anonymous and they did not want to have their names shared. And if you pay attention to what's going on every time this topic of Young Living is being brought up, you know that people feel very nervous to even speak up about this or ask any questions because either they get booted, attacked, or Young Living goes after them legally actually and shuts them down. So
Young Living, don't come after me. Shady on top of shady on top of shady. Yeah, that reminds me of Elamir too, and who we see, not just the creators of them, but then also some of the distributors. Shady people, some people who said they would never join MLM again, who are part of it again. And in my opinion, people doing that are kind of scammy. Okay. You have a question. What's the difference between, I don't know if I have an answer, but what's the difference between showing the backstory of Gary to discredit Young Living and someone smearing an ex-rep who leaves? I would say, wait. I was like, well, if somebody's smearing, yeah, then it would be based on what actually happened versus someone taking it and smearing maybe truth into non-truth. I don't know. I think I get it though. Yeah. Okay. One isn't a lie. Yes. Sorry.
This employee said that, I think in reality, Mary was a little bit more of a manipulator of individuals, but I don't sense that either of them had a huge skill set other than being able to stand up on stage and kind of tell people what they wanted to hear. And the reason why I wanted to share that very specific article, paragraph, because it made me think of the book, right? She writes one story, but then in reality, Core tells you, which I assume was told by Gary, a completely different story. So the skill set to play on people's emotions is shared by this employee that happened to work for them years and years and years later. The couple relaunched Young Living as a more active Young Living a year later in Utah. Mary, according to one former employee, provided the startup funds, brought in colleagues from Sunwriter, and was the majority owner. So while this company owners are doing time in prison and stealing funds, evading taxes, Mary brings her funds from this company that she worked for along with colleagues and was the majority owner. Just keep that in mind. And bring this with you to the end of the Zoom call because the hypocrisy is just beyond anything else you've ever seen. And that is one thing that's just mind-blowing too. Another employee said that Gary did not really have any educational training to speak of. He always used to like for us to call him ND, an naturopathic doctor, but he had a degree from a diploma mill. We'll always remove that from anything that he would write. He loved to be called Dr. Young, and we wouldn't allow him to do that, obviously for legal reasons, right? You can't just stamp doctor before your name if you do not have a degree to show for it. And that's why the sport records, they're always asking him, well, did you get a diploma? Well, what college did you go to? What university did you go to? With Young and his wife at the helm, Young Living grew sustainably throughout the 2000s, and essential oils transformed from a French curiosity to a mass market product. Oils live across political boundaries, attracting everyone from liberal coastal yogis to religious conservatives and rural communities across the middle of America. So it talks about how, people were attracted, growing their empires, growing their businesses, building businesses on that. So another employee says that employees work tirelessly, often against their employers' wishes, to create a legitimate business out of Young's chaotic impulses. Several employees told Insider that Young had the presence of a cult leader, creating an erratic corporate environment in which employees had no choice but to just follow his wishes no matter how ill-advised they were. Young Living, quote, really ran on this guy's personality. A former employee told Insider, more than in a way that anybody would be used in a serious company, there is something oddly charismatic about the guy. And people followed him like he was a god. And a lot of people who reach out to me and share their experience with Young Living, they do say, something just felt off. Like this whole elevating and putting Gary on this pedestal just didn't seem right with me. So not only the members felt that way that go through those conventions, but also people who work for him felt the same way. Like they were like, it was weird. Like we had just to do whatever he said, and he had this persona about him that just sucked people in. Again, playing on emotions of people. So
sounds like a cult. DC and I have been reading out the trial, doTERRA, or Young Living v. doTERRA, and in part of that, we were going through an examination of one of the witnesses, and they were talking about why they didn't want to be working at Young Living anymore was because of Gary's temper tantrums. I think that was the outcome of it. Antics, temper tantrums. It was just his erratic behavior.
So among the lavish projects, Young poured funds into his Justin Arenas at his lavender farm in Utah. Young decked out in a medieval armor, wanted to ride against opponents carrying lances, and that's all just going over how he just spend money left and right, which will bring us to the point of a speech that Mary recently did. I shared that video on my page last night of her saying, we're nearing bankruptcy, we're operating in the red and all these things. Well, if you follow this track record of them just spending money left and right, it would make sense why the company would be going under. He once proposed building a $3.5 billion amusement park and 5-star hotel that was to be a somewhat religious essential oil experience. At one point, he developed a love for airplanes and bought several small ones, even though aides told him that the company couldn't afford them, one employee said. Another employee also confirmed that Young purchased a number of airplanes. Former employees recall Young often demanded extensive changes to the yearly convention just weeks before the event was to take place.
Yeah, this one, there's no conspiracy hiding cancer cures. And I will say that just anecdotally, I have friends in research, scientists, pharmacist friends even, and they want to help people. They're trying to do what they can to get more information with their research, and they're trying, and they're getting it published and everything. They're just still learning more information. They're not trying to hide it or anything.
By then, the team had already been planning the event for about a year, and his demands would significantly increase cost. One source summed up his demanding personality as last-minute fireworks in an impossible area in France where it was extraordinarily expensive. He was blowing the budget out of the water just because he wanted fireworks. In another quote, everybody was just kind of expected to move mountains in order to make it happen. On another occasion, Young ordered his staff to delay the entire cruise ship so that he could stay at the location longer. And a former employee told him, "You can't just stop a Royal Caribbean. They've got places to be. They don't care if you're Gary Young." The source insider says that so the source added that Young was eventually helicoptered to the next stop of the Caribbean cruise.
Sounds like a toddler.
Extravagant lifestyle, spending company's money. People have to bail out the company, pull it out of red multiple times, almost going bankrupt and having to change their comp plans. And you saw the example of that in this mayor's speech again last night. She said, we've been here before, we did it, we're going to do it again. You just have to kind of put on your working boots on and go to work and make your team work harder because they've been there before. And I'm going to finish off with,
what's up, RK?
With this. There was a big case in 2017, I believe. Gary Young the company was sued for illegally trafficking rosewood oil from Peru into U.S. In 2017, Young Living pleaded guilty to illegally trafficking rosewood from Peru to the U.S. And the company was ordered to pay $135,000 to the Peruvian government, in addition to a $500,000 fine and $125,000 community service payment to the National Fish and Wildfire Foundation, according to court records. So there's court records for you to look through.
See, why, if you're part of the company and you hear that, that's just an immediate red flag that how they're getting their oils in is illegal. And they know that.
One employee said that once he made a decision, Gary's wisdom was superior to what laws may have been out there. And this is not just, an employee said that. You can see his track record of being on probation, breaking the law, breaking the rules, and just moving on to another state and doing the same thing over and over and over again because he really thought that he was above the law and he could just do whatever he wanted. there was a story of like him performing a stunt with a grizzly bear, which was a crazy idea, but again, the company had to go with it. And they brought in a grizzly bear that I guess Gary was, it was a promotional video for an oil. And Gary said the entire shoot was safe. He never actually got within 15 feet of the animal, which was trained and kept behind an electric wire. But the company said for the final cut, before they put out this commercial, they used Photoshop to remove the wire. And in the commercial, just showing that the bear, Gary said, licked this oil off his hands. And the employer said that they were just fed up, and he just said he just full of lying. He was extremely charismatic, the source said, but he was just kind of a full of beat, to be honest. Like, I like him personally, but he was just a snake oil salesman. So, and that was just personal opinions of people who directly worked within the company.
There are some people who I know just throughout my life who have taken like small little experiences and just added on different lies on top of them to just kind of, I don't know, make them sound more cool, or I don't know what the end goal is, but I can just hearing about like information from actual trials, people talking about their experience with Gary under oath. He just embellishes a lot, it seems like.
I wanted to start off with that just to give you kind of a background look into Gary, how he lived his life, how he ran his business. And they're just breadcrumbs of like, this is just like literally hitting the tip of the iceberg, because if you dig and you read through paperwork, you will find more and more and more stories. Well, in January of this year, there was a book that came out, and it was forwarded, not only forwarded, I'll let my friend Jenny talk about this, that has raised even more red flags, and it made a lot of people leave the company. So Jenny, do you want to come on and talk about that part?
Yeah, can everyone hear me okay? Good. Okay, so many of you saw my Instagram stories. It was February 10th, it looked last night, of when I talked about it. And first off, let me start off by saying I was not with Young Living long. I did not make a ton of money, and it was not really about like money to me. More so just using some of the products and sharing it. So I got sent something on Instagram in February with a diamond, I believe that was her status. In the company, got sent a book. And what the book was called, or is called, is My Word Made Flesh, you guys. Okay, I'm assuming, and I could be totally wrong, but if most of you who follow myself and Allie are believers, are Christians, but that phrase, My Word Made Flesh. So it was written by Robert Tennyson Stevens with Marcella von Harting, who is a PhD, with the foreword by Mary Young. Now, at first I'm like, oh well, like I don't need to worry about this. But I started looking more into it. So the subtitle of it is Awakening Your Health and Wealth Through the Words You Speak in 7 Revealing Steps. So what this book is essentially was giving people guidance to use oils certain ways by saying certain things at certain times. So you guys, that is a seance. That is an occult practice. And so the other kickback that I got from it was, well, Mary just forwarded it. She didn't write it. Yes, that is true. But what I do want to point out is that when you align yourself with something that is of the occult practice, that is witchcraft, that is new age, it will creep in. It absolutely will. So I want to read you just a little bit, like snippets here and there out of this book.
This is not related, but this reminds me of the posts made about Hocus Pocus 2, which I thought was really cute. But
so this is a quote from Gary Young, and it's funny because it actually says Dr. D. Gary Young, and it says, "The pure intelligence of essential oils may be the only tool that can reach into the deep recesses of our brain, cross over the chemical barriers, and open the hidden channels of our mind, allowing access to greater knowledge and discernment in reaching our highest potential to become more Christ-like." Okay, huge red flag. Huge red flag. Some of the other comments that are in here, it says that you say this during like diffusing certain oils, you say, I am comes from within. The oils are lubricating the memory of light and restoration of light in us. Some of the other things that is telling people to say is, I am made all new. I move forward with grace and ease. I reclaim my spiritual attunement and alignment for my highest good. I am the resurrection and the life of my lineage. It also says, I receive directly from my divine mother all I require in my creative expression. Okay, again, you guys, huge red flags, huge. This is about a spiritual covering, okay? We, especially in the times that we are living in today.
Yeah, I would say a huge red flag overall in just the oils and everything. cult rhetoric. Absolutely.
We are in a huge spiritual battle that we cannot see going on. And if you are aligning under this umbrella of something coming from witchcraft, from New Age practices, because I do believe New Age practices is witchcraft, and we're told to flee from all of.
If you want to go to the gym, then you might feel better afterwards. You can get some really helpful hormones kind of going in, get you energized. But if you also just want to relax, that's okay too. Relaxation is a part of health. And if you wanted to do maybe like a calmer kind of intentional movement, some stretching, or any kind of just like lower impact kind of movement. But yeah, I don't know what you want to do, how your body feels, but yeah, or even just getting outside, getting some fresh air, depending on where you're located. But regardless, whatever you choose, it's okay. And rest is important as well if you do really want to just kind of relax today. Because it's Sunday here, it's getting cooler, and it was raining earlier today. And so I have kind of like a cozy vibe going on here.
That's any divination. When you align with that, bad things are going to happen, right? Even if you are a believer, if you are under that umbrella. So eventually, Mary Young, the CEO, and Gary, they're essentially like the cover of this entire company. And if they are aligning themselves with their inner circle, yes, Mary didn't write the book. A friend of hers did, a good friend of hers. But if I wrote a foreword to a book, I would make sure I read that book, and I would make sure I agreed with that book. That is of utmost important, because my name would be on it. My name would be aligning with the content of that book. So with Mary doing that, even though she wasn't the author of it, it is saying like, hey, I align with what this book says. And if that person is in her inner circle, it affects her. Just like God tells the Israelites not to be around the pagan religions and the pagan people, because they will be affected by it, all throughout Old Testament scripture, because they will be sucked in. They will be affected by it. No matter how hard you try, you cannot not be affected if that is your inner circle. I've seen that firsthand in companies that I've worked with, that the inner circle, once they let certain people in that are doing bad practices, that do not align spiritually in faith with the belief in Jesus, it affects and it trickles down. We are not supposed to be unequally yoked. So I've gotten the question over, goodness, however long it's been.
I think part of that can be because they have like information control, but I don't know.
Since February of like, okay, so I have, I'm doing this, but I just don't read that stuff. I still want to help people. I still want to offer this and sell this, but I don't believe in that. So that's good. I'm just going to kind of push that to the side. But if you are turning a blind eye to it, you guys, that is just as bad as being involved in it. And ultimately, in like when I was reading this again the other day and yesterday and this morning, I'm like, all those words, that is Christ consciousness, which is New Age. So that essentially that New Age Christ consciousness belief claims that you can become Jesus, you can become a Christ. That is false, so false. And that will get you in this trap of, not going to heaven. I don't want to get too biblical here, Allie, but it's scary. It is super.
No. Where was it?
My name would be on it. My name.
Okay, let me go back. I accidentally went to the very beginning.
So Mary doing that, even though she is in her inner circle.
There we go.
Affected by it all throughout Old Testament scripture, because they will be sucked in. They will be affected by it, no matter how hard you try. You cannot not be affected if that is your inner circle. I've seen that firsthand in companies that I've worked with, that the inner circle, once they let certain people in that are doing bad practices, that do not align spiritually in faith with the belief in Jesus, it affects and it trickles down. We are not supposed to be unequally yoked. So I've gotten the question over, goodness, however long it's been since February, of like, okay, so I have, I'm doing this, but I just don't read that stuff. I still want to help people. I still want to offer this and sell this, but I don't believe in that. So that's good. I'm just going to kind of push that to the side. But if you are turning a blind eye to it, you guys, that is just as bad as being involved in it. And ultimately,
if you're turning a blind eye to it, then you wouldn't be involved in it, right? I don't know.
Like when I was reading this again the other day and yesterday and this morning, I'm like, all those words, that is Christ consciousness, which is New Age. So that essentially that New Age Christ consciousness belief claims that you can become Jesus, you can become a Christ. That is false, so false, and that will get you in this trap of.
I don't think so, because it's not talking about like becoming someone to like cover other people's actions, right? Like that's not what it's saying.
Not going to heaven. I don't want to get too biblical here, Allie, but it's scary. It is super scary
I just feel like she's kind of judging people. I don't know.
If you are involved in this stuff and, saying that I am the resurrection and the life of my life, and I receive directly from my divine mother all that I require in my creative expression, that is new age practice. That is scary. That is divination. That is ultimately
It definitely counts. Laundry counts as activities of daily living. So yes.
witchcraft, and we are supposed to stay far, far away from it. So that was my number one red flag. And after that, I was like, I can't, I talked to Allie. She wasn't in a position to dig in because of life circumstances. And so her response back was, do what you need to do. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to spend some time. But for me, like my spirit literally was like red flag. And I could not promote that. So I pulled down all of my links at that time because we know we live, we live in the natural. There is a supernatural. There is a spiritual battle going on. There are demons. Demons can come in and oppress. Even if you are a Christian, they can oppress you. And so they are attached to this product. If there are spells over this product, which we don't know if there are, right? We don't know that, but everything points to that there are some weird stuff going on that can affect you. And you can start getting demonic attacks on your life, your family, that you don't know where it's coming from. And it very well could be this. That was my huge red flag where I'm like, I can't, I'm out. And so I personally, at that point, went through every product that I had. I prayed over it, probably like 3 or 4 times. I prayed over it, that it would be used for God's glory. I denounced any evil spirits that had attached to it. So I did that, and I have not purchased since then. So that's the part that I want to talk about, because the spiritual warfare is real, and it's really important to know that if these practices are going on, upper management, basically this like spiritual covering over this company, it's not good. So I hope that answers those questions, Allie. I know there were some other questions we got, so let me know when you want me to redo some of those.
Okay, so thanks for watching. I appreciate it. So one comment on this book that was forwarded by Mary. There's people came to her defense, of course, saying, she read the book, she just read it forward, she just wanted to support your friend. Well, what I found out recently is that Mary knew this book was going to come out, because on the website, Essential Young Lady website, sorry, why did I always close my anyways, I'll read this to you guys. I'll show it to you like this. You see, I'm old school. I print out things and then I try to screen share. I'm like, hold on, it's in a sticky note. I don't have it on the screen. I like holding things. I like highlighting and writing. So Mary actually put out a statement on Young Women's website. And honestly, it's like kind of like a small script. Like, how many people really read the small script, right? It's there, but how many people are? But she put out the statement, a message from Mary Young. She said, a new book is coming out by Robert Tennyson Stevens titled My Word Made Flesh. It's a very unusual title that brings curiosity, and it's about learning how your words can help create your reality. Again, there's direction of putting energy into motion. And one thing I'm going to say right like off the bat, people are like, what's wrong with personal affirmation? What's wrong with waking up and saying, I'm loved, I'm strong, and creating that positive mindset, right? Because Jesus himself said, hey, there is power in your tongue. You can kill or you can give life with your tongue. But what this is doing, it's actually taking Jesus out of it and putting yourself as the God of your own life with all the power that God has. So the same exact thing that the devil did when he came to Eve, and he said, hey, you can be like God, right? You can do this too. He just lying to you. He doesn't want you to know things. And that's what New Age, which is not very new. It's been going on forever, but that's what they teach. They kind of suck you in with. It's like, well, just do the baby steps at first, just like speak life into yourself, which is all good. But then eventually you get deeper and deeper and deeper. And if you've heard my testimony, I dabbled into age, was I was able to manifest things to come to life. And that the turn result is that's how the enemy walks in and thinks he has authority and power to do whatever he wants to do. Well,
Allie, can I add something back to that? So speaking life to yourself and out loud, what is life? Jesus is life. So you guys need to understand that too, that when, yes, you are to speak life, but Jesus is life. So speaking him. So sorry.
No, you're good. So going to the very beginning of the guy that Gary was studying under, Boros, he wrote this book on enlightenment. So there was already things being planted at the foundation and start of the company to align themselves with very heavy New Age teaching. So he was studying under this guy, but then Gary also wrote a book that, again, I didn't know about until I actually found out this morning, and I messaged my girls like, hey, did you guys know he wrote this book? So this book is called The One Gift. I don't know how many of you have seen it, have read it, but Gary traveled to like sacred lands to learn how Sacred Frank was gathered, created, and whatever, right? Well, Gary had to get permission to go into these sacred parts of this land, and he went and visited the throne of Queen Sheba. And for those of you who know about occult, for those of you who know about New Age, for those of you who study, you don't really need to know much about the demonology.
They're not ready for that, Kira. Yeah, it is so important for them to hear this kind of verbiage and stuff to get them moving out of Young Living. But yeah, I don't know if they're ready for that. They should though.
and go in depth on that topic, but ancient goddesses and goddess, you like the second you hear Shiva, you're like, okay, what? That's another red flag. So he went and he visited her throne. And if you don't know anything about Shiva, again, she's a spirit. And maybe I need to do more in-depth studies on that kind of stuff again on my Instagram, because it never stopped. If you think those kind of things and practices have started and ended in Old Testament, you'll be mind blown to find out that they just got stronger and bigger and bigger. So that's the book that Gary wrote. So this book in January was not the first like, oh my gosh, young women is into age. I think a lot of people found out that they are and started raising red flags. All right, so now to the next part. I'm going to bring a very special guest. Her name is Heather Reed, and she will actually get to tell you doTERRA's side of the story, which I feel like on social media has never been the case. Anytime name doTERRA comes up, Young Living, I'm not going to put in an umbrella, but majority of Young Living members just get like, oh no, we don't talk about doTERRA. You know, they're evil. They're like, no, we don't really have their name in kind of like a sensitive subject. So, Heather, please come on and tell us the story of doTERRA.
Okay, hey guys. So like Alex said, my name is Heather Reed, and some of you guys just like might got like chills down your body. Like I know we're trying to come out of all the drama and the lies, but like I get this is probably weird. Did I ever think I'd be speaking to dozens of Young Living or ex-Young Living people? I don't know, but I'm actually going to tell you a little bit about that story because I feel like I kind of owe that to you before I get into what I'm going to say, because like there's a lot to heal around this, right? Like there's a lot just from what I've heard on the outside. I never was with Young Living, so I've only gotten to speak with dozens now at this point and hear those things. So before I get into things, well, first of all, I just want to like thank you guys and commend you for being on this call. Even just a lot of people I didn't know I was going to be on here, so maybe that's a little surprise right now. But even just to hear the truth of what you've been told for many years, a lot of you, I really commend you for doing that because that's hard and that's humbling. And I also just want to say, like, genuinely, I'm so sorry. Like, so sorry that a lot of you have had to deal with this because it is a big deal. That's why, we're spending all this time doing this. It's a big deal for your health, for your spiritual walk, and a lot of you for your income. And so I just like genuinely have really been like empathetic for, I've been talking, like I said, with dozens of you who are kind of uncovering the same stuff. And I just want to say I'm sorry, that would be very hard for me to go through with doTERRA. And so I can't say that I would do it with such grace and ease. It would be very hard. So I just want to say that. And so nothing I share.
Yeah, I didn't know what DuckDuckGo was. You had to tell me that one time. Yeah, definitely. And I hope that just sharing this, like, yes, we love that they're giving all this information about Gary, but the fact that they are still very involved, or they are now involved with doTERRA, is still a concern and not something that we want to really, promote. But it's just part of the process. And there's nuance to everything. Part of their process, doesn't have to be. I think DuckDuck, yeah, or something. It's just more, I don't know. I'm not gonna. I don't. It was just something that I think other kind of people who generally fall more into like essential oil users would use. Yeah.
Is at all with the spirit of like I told you so, or like shame and guilt, and eventually when this is all like said and done, we'll get to like God's gonna use it for His glory, and maybe there could be some laughs shed about some of the things that are a little crazy, but just know that like my heart with this is to just bring truth, and actually I want to kind of start with my story about like why I'm here and how our paths have crossed here, both myself with Allie and Jenny, but then with all of you. So I'm not gonna like worry you too long with anything about me, but I think it's relevant because I don't want this to feel random for you or any type of way. I just want to be sensitive. This is sensitive, and you're allowed to feel all the feelings right now and even be unsure as I talk. So I have been with doTERRA for about 7.5 years. I am a diamond now with the company and also a U.S. founder. I actually began when I was in college, but a couple years back, a lot of you probably don't know all that goes on in doTERRA, but there's an opportunity to actually become a U.S. founder even right now. That's open. And so I had really went full time with doTERRA.
It's odd that you can become a founder of something that has been around for so long.
Because I got married and was newly pregnant and things like this, and we went really hard and fast for one of those positions. And the same month that I became one of the new U.S. founders, it was the first thing I heard from God actually was that I needed to be prepared because this is December 2020. Can I say that? I needed to be prepared because there would be a mass exodus of Young Living people to doTERRA. And you have to understand, this is random for me. I didn't know anyone moving. Like I didn't even know a friend who was a customer. This was random for me. I wasn't that known in the company until literal days before I had hit this achievement. So I wasn't even a name in doTERRA yet. So this was very random for me. I didn't know what this was going to look like or anything. But I knew that I knew Like I had already had my hands on the court transcripts and things from the lawsuit between the two companies, and I know those things. I've always, wanted to speak truth on the matter, but I just started here and there. It wasn't a big thing of mine. It was just here and there. There were a lot of people speaking the truth about young living, and also the lies that were also spread about doTERRA. I can tell you for sure the things that I've heard, maybe just many lies spread about doTERRA that are going on within young living. So there's a lot there, and so I always know that. And so I just started to, as I saw opportunity, if somebody asked, I would publicly, on my Instagram, just share about it in a really, just truthful and graceful way.
That's a good summary of the DuckDuckGo. So pseudoscience woo crowd tends to use it more because it feeds into the other conspiracies and political leanings they believe. Thank you for summarizing that.
And then I also have become very close with a lot of people in on the corporate side of doTERRA. And so months later, after I had heard that that word, I actually heard someone in Utah say that, use the exact words, there would be a mass exodus in young living. And I think I whipped my head over actually, and was like, what? Like those words, like I had full body chills. And actually all the things that have happened, I actually knew that were going to happen then. This was May 2021. So all the way from pay cuts, closing markets, Amazon deal, I actually got all that intel. And I tried without, with respecting where I was getting the information as well, and also just being respectful and presenting it in a truthful way. I've actually been trickling this information for a year and a half now. And, a lot of people don't want to hear it a lot. And some of it was before things had happened. So, it wasn't necessarily verified, but actually all of that stuff has come to pass and continues to unfold. And so just as the book happened, earlier this year or whatever, I think that was January, right? And so each time something kind of unfolded, I spoke up again. And so I just have been kind of preparing to be ready for people. And I want to let you know, if that's not you on this call, like you don't, like if you're not ready to hear me speak, like you can turn me off right now, like seriously be okay with that. But I know that there are people that are ready to hear, whether it's just to kind of close this chapter and hear, oh, I don't need to hate my friend who went with doTERRA anymore. Like even if that's what this does for you, or just bring you some sort of peace, then that's fine. Let that be that. All I know is that I've been preparing, both intellectually, my heart, my mind, honestly, my business as well. There are things since this, because again, this has been years now that I've been like, okay, am I crazy? Did I just hear that? And then as things have unfolded, especially in this last month, you guys, I've had projects I've been working on for a very long time. I completely built it to put my just open arms and for the people that are ready to just hear some of the truth. So this is very much not random that I'm here with you. And so if I haven't made that clear, I know that this is off-putting to some people. It looks like a business thing, just like come to doTERRA. I know that that's how this is coming off to some people, and I knew that, but I chose to just kind of be obedient through that and hope that the people who are supposed to hear my heart would hear it. And so some of you might fall into either of those categories. Again, that's fine. Either way, I'm going to just bring some truth to the table here.
Why is she upside down? Oh. Why is she upside down? Oh my goodness.
So anyway, now that we kind of have a backstory here, this was kind of last minute for me to actually join on here as well. By the way, I was connected with Allie and Jenny just the good old internet on Instagram. So we just kind of all aligned and we're like, hey, we want to speak on this. We're doing it just kind of all fell into place. So I want to share with you a couple things from the court documents. Again, this was kind of last minute, so I tried to pull up what I could. Funny enough, I was like, oh, I need to refresh my memory because this is stuff I've been speaking on now for years. Obviously, some of the stuff has been newer that's come. For instance, I didn't know about the book. That's one thing I didn't know until it was out. I wanted to touch on that really quick, actually, before I go into, I'm going to talk a little Sea to Seal. But I don't think I actually even talked with you guys, Allie, about this, but a couple things on the note of the book.
I wish I could zoom in on her being upside down. So random.
Things like that. It is actually on my Instagram. I have a couple highlights saved. But I did get my hands on this private Zoom by the authors. There's more than one author or people involved with that book. And there was a Zoom, actually I have recordings of it, where they actually go through and say that Young Living would be adopting the principles laid out in that book. And so they go, and it says it there. You guys will get connected after this or whatever. But it says, you'll see something like on Young Living's website, like this language being adopted. Oh, I see, what's her IG handle? If you're talking about me, it is just Heather Holistic. But so I've got some highlights there. And you'll notice the beginning of the highlight, the doTERRA versus Young Living one, is from literally years ago. So again, not me jumping on the bandwagon here. But anyway, so it says that they would go to adopt those the verbiage and different things like that on their website. So that is there. And I think too, just my little 2 cents is you're never going to align with everybody ever, right? There's going to be passerbyers. There's going to be, people in your kid's school. There's always going to be a thing we can't avoid, right? And I think that's why you have to be protected, and why, especially when it does get into intimate parts of your life in your home. And unfortunately, that's just how the nature of this is, right? Like, these are things in our home, and it's very much, we're selling a culture or a community along with it. And I think we need to be protective. And also the other difference is that, sure, you might be buying from other companies, or you don't know the story of the CEO or like the practices there, but they're not being forced on you. And I think that's like what it comes down to. And so to have the confirmation that this forward was written by Mary, and then not just something she did in her personal life that you don't need to be bothered with, but she knew it was being sent out. And then again, on the website, the statement made, changing the website to align with those things, that's when it starts to be imposed and impressed on you. So anyway, I just kind of want to say that there. And while I pull up the court documents, this is something, as it was refreshing my memory, this is actually something I did not see years ago when I first dug into the court transcripts. By the way, these have always been public. I was kind of the one to pass them on to some of the whistleblowers here. And I'm like, hey, I've had these in my Google Drive for a couple years if you want them. But anyway, so I won't actually read something.
Before we move on to the court docs, while you're pulling them up, there's a good question came through that I want to address right away while we're on the topic of that book and the language being used on the Young Living. So somebody said that while y'all did put out a statement about that book and the Zoom, and they were referencing, they said they will not be putting out the verbiage on the website, just putting out they're not defending. And that's a good thing to bring up, because last night or this morning, I was looking through their oils and I was catching very disturbing verbiage that they are already using. So they might not be using the book, because there's actually private, I think it's like $5,000, $6,000 tickets that you can buy to go to those conferences to privately learn how to use those oils in your team. So, but they do have multiple oils on their website that should raise major red flags and make you just get your house in order, get serious about what you're bringing in. One of them is called Gary's Light. It's an essential oil blend. It's a unique combination of Sacred Frank. Do you remember where he learned about Sacred Frank? When he went and visited the throne of Sheba. So combination of that oil, citrus, lemongrass, cinnamon bark, and earth, and it's formulated to help inspire us to connect with each other, enlighten our minds to a greater awareness of truth and discernment. The only thing that can give you discernment is the Holy Spirit, because there's knowledge of good and evil. The only discernment will come from Jesus Christ, not from Gary's Light oil application. Another very, very discernment oil that they sell is Dreamcatcher. It says essential oil blend combines 17 essential oils to create an aroma that may awaken creative thoughts and enhance dreams and visualizations. Gosh, I knew I was not going to be able to read that. I was practicing yesterday, and I was like, you got this. Promoting greater potential insight for realizing your dreams and staying on your path. So I don't care if they're going to bring this book on board, because without the book, they already have enough embedded in their website that screams like, get away. I don't need my thoughts or visuals to get enhanced by bringing this oil.
I think it's kind of interesting how they mentioned specifically the dream catcher one, when dream catching is it's a cultural thing for a lot of Native Americans, First Nations culture. So to just be like, I don't know, to use that verbiage, and then like, I don't know, be so, for Young Living to use that, and then for this group to be so I guess, I don't know if against it is the right thing, but it's like a cultural thing. A lot of indigenous like history. So just interesting.
My home. Again, spiritual warfare is a serious thing. So anyway, just wanted to kind of close this chapter on this book and the oils, because they're already out there on our website.
Yeah, so I pulled up this part of the court docs, which we're going to send you the court docs, so you can spend a lot of time digging in here, but I'll just read some of them because I did not read this part years ago. I actually wasn't super aware. I'd heard some things, some weird things that have gone on, but I really, all the time I've been sharing has always, I kept the crazy stories out, even if I did hear them from like a primary source. By the time I tell it, it's a secondary source and all the things. So I really stayed to like the facts. So I actually didn't dig too much into like the new agey kind of stuff. So this is something I didn't see, or I didn't, whatever. But anyways, I'm gonna read part of this to you. So this part of the court document is, I believe, a advocate who was with Young Living, and I do believe she did actually join with doTERRA when doTERRA started. But so her testimony here, under oath, you guys, she was talking about basically new age things, but in the court documents, they're kind of calling them, they're saying like he pushed religious things on them. And so I'm just going to read a couple things off for you, because I know we don't all have the time to dig into court documents. It's a lot. Okay, so the question is, you mentioned religion was promoted at Young Living. Who promoted it? The answer is, Gary Young was from the stage at large gatherings. And I don't just mean a mention of, God this, on that, because, that's different. So she said, I remember there was one event in which he was moving from one segment of the presentation to another. Don't remember what the segments were, but it kept dragging on. I do remember he was doing emotional clearing work, and we couldn't start the process until everybody got on board. This is the key part, right? Like, I share about my faith. I have shared about my faith from stages, even at our own conventions all the time, never in a way that would impose it on someone else or force them to adopt those things. She said, I remember him saying very clearly from the stage, there are a group of people here who are not yet lined up with this, and Father tells me to not go until they line up with it. yeah, I just gave myself chills all over again. And the question, and another question, he was suggesting he was having a discussion with Godfather. She said, yeah. He was saying, Father, will you tell me when it's time? And then he would talk and talk and talk, and then he'd say, well, Father says it's not time to do this yet. Let's see if there's anything else that I'm going to keep,
That's some culty activity going on.
dragging this on, but I think you get the point. So at some point, I and a lot of people were getting really physically and mentally tired. Yeah, there's more. You can go on. We'll try to write down these pages for you if you want to dig in more. But anyways, I want to touch on that because I felt kind of pulled to in case, like, I know there's a lot of like kind of twisting around, like, well, it's a book, and like, well, so okay. So anyways, let me read off some seed to seal stuff for you guys. I'm just gonna pull up the pages here and just read a couple things off. Okay. Sorry, you guys, I'm a little congested here. Okay. There's a lot here. We could honestly go all day just digging into these, but this has to do with this court case has to do with doTERRA leaving Young Living, and just to put it in a nutshell for you, they left because seed to seal was untrue. Okay, so it was a fallacy. That is why they left. Ultimately, there were other things going on. Emily Wright was. This is also in the court doc. So again, I'm not here to say this is here. I'm just trying to give you spark notes because like it's a lot. But Emily was not being paid as much as her male counterparts as well. And when one of them stood up for her, it had to lead to their termination. And so, anyways, the whole thing of doTERRA leaving Young Living to steal their idea, which I think is plant medicine. It has to do. This court case falls on whether or not seed to seal is a fallacy. So this is years ago, and so this court case, and so it has very much been out there that seed to seal, under oath, all these things, like it's completely not true. And so by the way, I don't know if in case anybody's kind of new to this whole thing, not only did Young Living lose their own court case, they sued doTERRA, they also were fined for basically, I forget the legal term for it, but basically like misusing the court system and destroying evidence, things like that. If you've heard any computer drama, they were fined for that, and also they had to cover all of doTERRA's legal fees. And so again, all that's, it's not hearsay. So anyway, okay, so some of this has to do with them questioning David Sterling, who would go on to be doTERRA's CEO, and kind of why he was terminated, things like that. So let's read a little bit of this. Okay, so question, I think this is a question for, well, let me just start reading, and you might piece together kind of who the questions are for. But okay, and under item 9 on that list, you said that you fired him for interfering with Gary Young's directives to the marketing department, correct? And they say that's what it says. And that's what you told him at the meeting on August 8th. One of the reasons you were dissatisfied with the service was because he interfered with your directives at the marketing department fair. And I think this must be Gary answering, says that is correct. And so the thing they're getting at here is the marketing for seed to seal. So him getting in the way and interfering with marketing seed to seal was why he was, there was this stuff held against him. So, and the directive to the marketing department that he interfered with is you wanted to make a claim of seed to seal, that your company held all of these farms and you were making all of this oil and you did not buy it on the market. And you wanted to tell everyone this new marketing campaign, seed to seal. And he, as a CEO, knew that was an absolute lie and said that he did not want to be a part of that seed to seal program, right? He actually says, not true. And then they come back and say, sir, your seed to seal, that's a false advertising claim that you continue to pursue with your company, correct? There are a lot of objections by the other legal side, not wanting to answer about seed to seal. A lot of, I object for, says, first off, we're way off on relevancy. This doesn't have anything to do with the date of termination. The court goes on to object the relevance, to say it is relevant. This has everything to do with if he was rightfully terminated or not, And so, okay, so moving on, he asked where the farms are, how many farms there were, and why the farms were there, what they raised the farms for. The termination was in part for the farms. I witness going to testify I was terminated because the seed to seal program is an absolute lie. Let's see. I'm trying to leave out all the legal, kind of not jargon, but you know what I mean, okay, so they're saying that had nothing to do with the marketing and that it's not relevant. And they go on to say, we spent 10 or 15 minutes going over different things that are said in this document that have nothing to do with Mr. Sterling's clause. And so they really try to work around, and finally they pin them down for an answer. They keep objecting, and the court overrules it. Again, I'm trying not to do too much of that back and forth, but I'm also trying to give you the full picture and not just pick and choose. Okay, so they say, you do not grow a majority of your oils, do you, sir? He says, Gary Young says, I don't know the exact percentages, but I know we grow a big percentage of our own oils. Question is, when you told the jury your company grew a majority, that would mean more than 51%, right? So that would be correct. And then he said, that's a lie. He said, I don't believe it is. And he said, when you had confrontations with your management, who was Emily Wright and David Sterling at the time, they refused to participate in your claim in seed to seal. Again, if you're new, David Sterling and Emily Wright, they are the ones who will go on to create doTERRA. If you didn't put that together, sorry. They refused to participate in your seed to seal claim because you did not grow the oil that you were claiming publicly. And since then, up to today, when you told the story a moment ago, you continue to sell the majority of your oils. That is now especially untrue because of the amount of oil you now sell, right? You've grown in size by 10 or 12 times, correct? They say, yes, correct. And you haven't bought 10 or 12 as many farms, right? From the day that there were in 2007 to current, there aren't, he clarifies it again, there aren't 10 or 12 times as many farms bought by Young Living. Answer, no. There's now 10 or 12 times as much oil sold without replacing it, correct? And he goes on to say, not correct, even though he just said they didn't buy that. So it's very much back and forth. Again, I don't want to.
Gary is back and forth whenever he is witness. So yeah, it's frustrating to read and listen to what Gary says when he's on the stand as in the trials, but it's also kind of just entertaining. It's frustrating and entertaining at the same time.
You get the point here, but you can read this for yourself. It's very much back and forth, and they have to really like dig it out of them. And then they go on to kind of some other things. But that is just one section of C2CL. Let me pull up one more for you, and then the rest, you can dig in here and you can search keywords. This I think is along the same lines, but a different portion. Let's see.
I wanted to highlight this comment from someone. It says, is this why they have been changing labels? I'm looking through my oils right now and I see 4 different labels ranging from seed to seal to just pure essential oil. So the fact that like Young Living didn't publicly make it known we are changing labels, this is what happened, this was our mistake, that kind of thing, it's just kind of quietly done and changes, that is shady to me.
Sorry. Okay, so this is, I believe, this is David Sterling again, being uncomfortable with seed to seal. Can you tell the jury first, were you satisfied with that concept of seed to seal? And he says, it's a great term if it were true, but it wasn't true. It would imply that you had complete control of your oils from the seeds planted in the ground through the growing process, through the distillation process, and up until putting the actual label on the bottles. That's what it was implying. They say you were supposed to have grown it in your own farm and distilled it as Mr. Graham testified and then put in a bottle, correct? He says, correct. He said, did he want you to make a marketing plan consistent with that while you're at the company? He said, yes, very much so. Which is, going back to that other page of documents, is they were trying to say that it's that had nothing to do with it. They were saying irrelevant, and it had nothing to do with marketing, but that's what his job was to do. Okay, I'll let you guys kind of read the rest because you get the picture here. There's a lot. There's like, this is a book. There was also, I know a lot of you have seen people talking about things. Oh, you know what? One more part. I knew there was a part here. The last thing I was going to read here on this page was that the question, were you comfortable with implementing Mr. Young's desire to have this concept of seed to seal used? And he says, we knew that not even 1% of the essential oils were produced from farms, and therefore this was a stretch beyond imagination of just something that simply wasn't true. And they go on to repeat that 1%. There's another section of the court docs where Mary Young actually confirms it's still 1%. So, okay, but the other thing I was going to say is there's also a lot of claim here under oath about the quality from that woman who was actually a distributor with Young Living too. Okay, I think that's all I was going to pull up as far as the court docs, because again, we could keep going. I'm not really paying attention to the chat, so I don't know if there are anything.
Do you guys want me to read some of the questions from earlier on? And then either one of you guys can answer.
So one question I want to ask just to kind of help people understand. So seed to seal, the whole promise of seed to seal is we grow our own farm, we have our own farm, our oil's getting tested, and you get the best quality to your front door delivered by whatever, right? But in the court documents, he under oath said that he doesn't know where all of their oils come from. In the court documents, it literally said it could be from our farms, it could be from broker farms, it could be from certified farms, whatever. So under oath, he himself, the founder and the CEO of Young Living, which he actually wasn't, for probably legal reasons, he says, no, I don't actually know where that will come from. Correct? That's what I saw and read in the court documents. And I think that's really important for people to hear, because for years and years and years, they were just sold this seed to seal stamp of approval, and that's all you take our word for it, seed to seal, trust it. When it came to questioning and requesting, okay, well, where are your test results? They were never willing to give them to people. They just said, well, our test results can be stolen, that things can be reformulated and all that stuff. But in reality, seed to seal was never the truth. It was fabricated lie.
Yeah, the other thing, I don't know if you touched on this in the beginning, but there are also parts of the documents where Gary actually defaults to, I don't know, I was not there 90% of the time. Like literally, like I don't know. I was like always in Ecuador. And so, but I don't know if Ali said this in the beginning or not, but like that he was actually not even the owner. It was fully under Mary's name, and Gary was actually very much not involved. And he was he was really just like the face, like almost like the mascot after a while. And I don't know that I believe it started that way. Like I'll tell you, even doTERRA executives will say, Gary started out with great intentions. Like you know, and we're thankful that he kind of paved the way for what we do have today in the essential oil world. So I'm not like saying that, but it was, yeah, there's a lot of like, I don't know, I wasn't there. Like that's an important document. So
There was one good question all the way at the top. I scroll through, and I don't know if you noticed where people ask, why do you even join MLM companies? Why can you just buy oils from companies that's not MLM? MLM, it's kind of a dirty world. Like the people like, oh, MLM, let's stay back. It's multi-level marketing. And it's kind of like word of mouth kind of business structure, right? It's the same as somebody walking into my home to see, I have this beautiful new couch in my living room, and they ask, where'd you get that from? And I say, oh, Macy's. So they go off to Macy's, they make their money. And, you know, mine just was kind of like a word of mouth advice. A lot of people right now, since especially the whole C19 thing started, are working from home. So that gives an opportunity for people who will create content, who put their time, energy into educating people and leading people somewhere, or just talking about products to make an income, because everybody has bills, everybody has kids to feed and kids to clothe, and that's just an opportunity to have an income. If you don't treat it as a business, you're not going to get anything out of it. Another very, very important thing that I just realized recently.
Well, that's not the case with multi-level marketing. How many people have actually put so much effort and time into their business, and for it to not grow at, you know, the rate that would allow them to get that income that would provide what they need it to cover and what they would want it to cover. It is not about how much work the person is doing. When I was on a stream yesterday with DC, I think it was, yeah, I was mentioning about how one of the conferences that I went to, there was a top level distributor who was talking about how she had almost made it to the top, and then her whole entire team pretty much fell apart. And so she had to rebuild again to the top. And while that was supposed to be like inspirational, that was not inspirational in my opinion, because it really showed how much that she was reliant on other people, and not just to purchase, but like to be team members, and for those team members to be active. So yeah, no, it's not just about if you want to treat it as a business or not.
I'm sorry. With becoming a part of an MLM community versus buying oil from companies that don't provide that, you are on your own. Respectfully to say so. When you become part of a community, you're taking under guidance and leadership of those above you who invest time into educating you, who invest time into teaching you and guiding you how to use these oils and how to use them properly and what things to swap out in your home. If you're not joining that community, you're on your own. So I mean, you could come and be like, hey, I just have this oil, how should I use it? But to have respect towards people who do put their time into studying, that's why they choose to join these communities, right? So they're part of a team, they are part of a community, and those communities become very like, I've had people who have joined my young women's team and we've built close relationships, and who then later on came and asked to pray for their families, or they asked advice on their marriage, or they asked advice on Bible study. So you become friends through this door of this scary MLM business practice, right?
And because you become friends, that is one of the reasons why it makes it so hard to see outside information and to see that maybe everything that you've been taught or told isn't exactly the truth. I did want to bring up this. So regarding the change of the labeling. So what actually happened was a national advertising division of the BBB, Better Business Bureau, told them, doTERRA, another essential oil companies, using therapeutic grade was false advertising. And research found people assumed medical properties with that labeling. And I think that's absolutely true. When you see something that says therapeutic grade, you can assume some medical properties. So Young Living and doTERRA tried to fight it, and the National Advertising Division fought back, threatened with reporting them to the FTC, and held a hearing. And then at that point, both companies were like, okay, we'll change them. So they changed them. And they tried to spin it and like they were willing and compliant and happy to satisfy FTC guidelines. So they did put out that announcement, but they downplayed what happened. They didn't say like, we changed it from seed to seal and everything because it was a lie. No. Yeah, here they go with the pyramid crap.
That has been, I mean, every single company, organization, school, church is built like a pyramid. It is. You have owners, CEOs, teachers, whatever, right?
No, not everything is a pyramid. That is such a, what did I do? How do I fix that? There you go. I mean, I have a business and nobody's above me or below me. I'm just by myself. So that is not a pyramid. And that's not what we mean when we mean pyramid. It's about like recruiting and how the team is built, not necessarily about leadership as far as like actual the C-suite and everything.
But that's what I want to say. If you don't buy from them, you buy it from these companies, you're out of that kind of community that you can build.
Yeah, and I have a couple things to say off that. So, I mean, if you look at the profit margin of companies, if you dig in and find that information out, they're not different. They're not different than MLM. So the funds are just allocated differently. Like that's just a fact. Okay. So I can tell you, my parents have always been entrepreneurs, so like brick and mortar, like literal businesses. And no matter what kind of company you are, all large, very large, in some companies, depending on what they are and things, sometimes the highest portion of their investment is in marketing. And so if it's not advocates or distributors, whatever you want to call them, it's billboards, it's commercials, you know what I'm saying? So look at profit margins. If that's going to be the argument that MLM has to pay out more, it's not true. It's just not true. And, be my guest, you can try and see if people will tell you what their profit margins are, but you can definitely, try to ask them, especially the companies that are very like, their marketing tactic is we're not MLMs. Okay, do you mind telling us like what profit margin is then? Because a lot of them actually have the same exact prices of doTERRA and then claim that I don't know that they pay out too much advocates. I'm curious where their money is going then, because they have.
I mean, I don't pay for advertising, and I don't know off the top of my head my numbers. But if you want to know, you can always ask me. I can figure them out. But yeah, I mean, I have a very, very, very small business, very small. Yeah,
They have same prices. So, anyways, so that's one thing, and then also with it being like everything Ali said. So really, doTERRA didn't set out to start an MLM. I don't know if that's even like a thought that anybody had, but they said we have the purest essential oils in the world. How do we get them to people? It literally just so happened that the MLM model was the best. And you know what? Exactly what Ali said. This is plant medicine. It is not something to throw on a shelf and let people go to Pinterest with it. That's dangerous. That's why there are a bunch of crazy things out there about essential oils. And so we had to have it face to face where people could come, into your home or nowadays into your virtual living room via Zoom and educate and have resources. And so that's one thing I'm always talking about, whether it's Young Living or other companies that don't claim MLM. Here's the thing. Now you're talking about retail sales versus healthcare. It's not MLM or not. For me, doTERRA's never been, I don't know, like when people bring that up, I'm like even years ago when I was new in the company, I'd be like, MLM? What do you mean? I just talk about pure essential oils, and there's healthcare and research studies, and it wasn't even relevant to me. And so that's like one thing when people ask, again, really not trying to offend here, but this is what I've heard from people coming over from Young Living is that it's very much, and I'm not saying everybody, but very much like more of a lifestyle. And you've got your diffuser blends and different things like that. And doTERRA is, and you'll find different people on both sides, right? I'm sure there are some medical professionals on the Young Living side, and I'm sure there's also some people on the doTERRA side who are more, about the energies of things and whatever. There's going to be that on either side, but as a whole, what comes from corporate is the science. It's healthcare. We have medical partnerships, medical advisory board, and veterinarian.
She was funny. She mentioned the licensed health professionals on it, but then also the people who were more into energies and stuff, basically calling out all the energy people. That's just funny. There are going to be health professionals in doTERRA and other multi-level marketing companies as well. I mean, I was a brand new dietitian when I was involved in my multi-level marketing company. Part of the reason why I was there was because there were actual medical doctors, pharmacists, registered nurses, other dietitians. I mean, there are going to be in every field of healthcare, there's going to be people involved in multi-level marketing. And in general, even outside of multi-level marketing, there's going to be people in every single health field involved in kind of grifting too. Just look at Dr. Oz, for example.
An advisory board. We do clinical studies. We have integrative healthcare centers. And so to me, it's not about MLM or anything like that. So when I look at companies that's their argument, I have questions. I have questions that if you have pure oils, every website says pure oils on the earth, right? If you have the pure oils on the earth, what are you doing not getting a medical partnership? What are you doing not talking to hospitals and withholding that? That's doTERRA's mission, and that's why universities, University of Mississippi, Johns Hopkins, a lot of them have publicly said we will only use doTERRA oils in our facilities as well as in our research. They have said that. Okay, so I just have questions. If they could get the things that pure, not just pure, but that potent, and how the constituents should be, I think these places would be conducting research a lot sooner than doTERRA came in at a lot cheaper of a cost. So you can look that up. We have over 113 relationships with leading research universities, clinics, hospitals, and that's not for no reason. And so we also have the studies to say, as last year, that our lavender has been deemed pharmaceutical grade because of its consistency within a certain variation with proper nature over X amount of years. Those studies you can read. Okay, so for me, when I'm talking about oils, I'm not just vibing out and like doing it in the future, like it's not even really self-care, you know? And so for me, that's what I want. I want the company who's doing research and has published studies, you know?
Hey Heather, someone asked a while back, can you talk on how the young living people seem to swear doTERRA has fillers in it and why it's cheaper?
Yeah, I truly.
There was a big pharmacist actually in Juice Plus. She was at the top, and she had a live video that went kind of viral within the company because she was talking about how much it was helping her with her like fertility journey and all of that, and her carrying her pregnancy to term and everything. So that's what I'm saying. Like literally every single type of field, unfortunately.
Have no idea. I have no idea. The talk about fillers, I think that's what's happened. The people, so, you know, we have batch numbers on the bottom of our bottles. You can go to source2.com, type in that batch number, find all the testing reports for that exact batch. And in this past month, again, I've talked to dozens of young living people, some customers, some very high up leaders, and they're shocked that we even have such a website. They're shocked that that is available to the public. And so it's very much been kept like a secret. And so to me, I think that it's one of those things that unfortunately was just told so many times and to put the blinders on. This is the same way that I've had these Word documents and I've had them and tried to offer them to some people and they don't even want to look. They don't want to look. And so I don't know where they did the stuff about fillers. I don't know because that's verifiably, someone said I will be joining another MLM after this. That's okay. That's okay. I completely, I can't truly imagine like going through all of that. So those are validated. Yes, this is a good question too, but did I fully answer that question? I think I did. Okay. Yeah, so speaking of the testing, this is a great question because it's actually a topic of conversation right now. So the question is, can you touch base on the topic of APRC employing doTERRA scientists? Is that a conflict of interest? So yeah, this is a great question. It's something being talked about more recently. It's actually the other way around. doTERRA actually did bring APRC, Aromatic Plant Research Center, in-house. That has always been our third party tester. And so what was happening was that 90% of APRC's business was actually doTERRA. So it wasn't really looking super third party anyways, because people had those same questions. We just gave them a lot.
See, I think part of how healthcare professionals can support such things, just from what I have seen in my experience of just seeing kind of having their guard let down by other, and this is kind of changing, I think, in the last several years, the last couple years, especially in the online space, but just kind of seeing other healthcare professionals being so deeply involved. There's kind of this human nature, I feel like, response of kind of letting your guard down, kind of being a little bit more comfortable. And then a lot of them, what I've seen is that they tend to go after people who they were when they joined. So, and that's, you know, healthcare professional or not. And so for me, like, for example, the first person who, like my direct upline, it was someone else who was a recent grad, someone else who just recently became a dietitian at that time. And they had encouraged me to go after people who I was whenever I joined. So somebody who was still very, very new, very young, and, you know, kind of at a vulnerable place as far as like, for me, I had just moved to a new state, recently had gotten married. We're a military family. And so around a new place that I didn't have any friends, local, know anybody. And so it was just a kind of way they found a vulnerability, multiple different areas. And then once you're in there, having continuing education offered in different ways, talking with other people in similar situations and stuff, you just kind of build this kind of community, and then just kind of snowballs from there. At some point, you do realize how it's a scam, and some of the concerns and red flags like become so apparent that you can't ignore them anymore. And I think that's where you see the people either leave or they just kind of go, you know, oh well, and continue on and go to the top, knowing exactly kind of what they're doing. But still, I don't think they started out with bad intentions. Yep. Yeah. Doesn't matter how like education and everything, brainwashed can definitely happen. And then I don't think we hear about that specific side of things a lot because there's a lot of shame and guilt and just I mean, that impacted my career significantly. I think it impacted just like confidence, guilt, shame significantly. And I think it does for a lot of people.
For all of the testing that we're doing. So it ended up being, I'm talking about APR, the Aromatic Plant Research Center, who's always been our third-party testers. So anyways, we have more recently brought them in-house because it was making more sense, since we were essentially funding them anyway. It was making more sense to bring them in-house, where we could provide them some really top-tier testing equipment, and those are some of the best scientists
We're almost done, y'all. Almost done.
In the world. So we were able to bring them in to use that equipment. And so with that said, we still want to have third-party testing. So we do have other third-party companies that do testing for us as well. And that is something that I've actually personally been speaking with people from corporate on, like, okay, how can we get those testing results available as well? Because I want to really lead with this transparency and not have miscommunication, as I welcome these are living people, the ones that are, open to joining with doTERRA. I want to make sure that you guys are welcome to ask questions, that's encouraged. And if I don't have the answers to a question, I will go literally straight to corporate myself, and I have. You guys follow me on Instagram. I literally post screenshots of text messages to me from Emily Rice to clear a lot of things out. So you have my word with that. And yeah, someone said, yeah, I was worried because the steel stuff. Yeah, and I don't want you coming into something new to have questions like that. So okay, sorry, I'm like getting ahead of myself with the questions. So let me just finish that's what's understood. So the third party testing we do have from other companies, we are actually actively working on getting those companies listed, as well as making those test results available to you as well, just to say that the rigorous in-house testing that we have through APRC is valid. So let's see.
So someone says, isn't much of the transcript you read from one of the high-ups from doTERRA? So the transcript that's being read to you guys are court documents.
Yeah.
Those were under oath, question and answers from doTERRA, Young Living, which she mentioned that Young Living sued doTERRA, ended up losing the lawsuit, and paid out $1.8 million to doTERRA for abusing the court system. So they were put in their CPC list falsely. It was all lie, and doTERRA did not even steal their ideas. And if you have been here through the beginning, I know we're coming up on 2 hours. If you follow how Derek has started and the people he was under, if he, like anybody in their right mind, would not want to work for somebody like that and would want to leave the company. If you constantly have to run into the law, you have on probation, and you cannot legally register a business on your name because you cannot practice medicine, right? I mean, wouldn't anybody want to pack up and not be part of that kind of organization? I think I would. So
maybe we just don't understand the question. I don't think everyone needs to push the question aside. So the court transcript. I was reading some of the responses from. I read some responses both from Gary Young as well as David Sterling and things like that. But the questions are from like lawyers and stuff. That makes sense. Like the people doing the questioning. But you can read. I mean, I just showed a couple things to read. You can dig through all the stuff that Gary and Mary and people both answer. Was there another part of that question? If the transcript is from a high up in doTERRA. So the transcripts are court documents. Is that what you're asking? These are this is from the court. Is that part of the transcript?
that's what.
This Shannon lady does not want to take the court as truth in what happened, it seems like.
I'm confused on because all the transcripts are court documents. So just like you sit in court and you hear one side getting questioned and answered, and another side getting questioned and answered, and the court determines the outcome at the end. That's what's being shared. So
if you have more on that, we can come back to it. I'm just going to poke around some other questions. There's a question in here. Is anyone been concerned about the overuse of oils that MLMs promote? Like, if one drop is so powerful, why we encourage to use more? So in the very first class I ever joined, like myself, like sat in on until today, it's something we actually teach is you only need 1 to 3 drops most of the time because they're so potent. So I don't know if that's, again, I don't know if that's an MLM issue. I think everyone needs to use discernment to be the best judge. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I mean, if you want to read, I think to do that, right, we've got to read every last word then of these court documents, just because there is a judge. That was the point of the suit, right? Yeah, so you guys can read up and you can. Does doTERRA promote ingestion of oils? Yeah, we have oil, the side of the bottle that on ones we recommend in general use says supplement packs, and if we don't recommend it, general says ingredients.
Please don't consume oils.
Oh, you meant best judgment of how many drops to use. Sorry. Yeah. Are they pre-diluted? No. We only have a couple oils that contain fractionated coconut oil in them. If they're like a normal 15 ml, maybe like 2, maybe. And then oil roller bottles that say touch on them, like flat on your touch, those are pre-diluted so that they're just easy for like kids and things like that.
Hey, Heather, do you want to, since we are coming up on 2 hours, I know that some people are dropping off. Do you want to kind of tell a little bit about what is being offered on, what we talked about earlier?
Yeah, for sure. So, so again, if this is not you, like, it's okay. It's totally okay. If you're not ready to explore other things or just whatever, that's totally fine. And we're also happy to keep having dialogue about this, outside of this. But okay, I'm gonna read that one after because I'm very distracted. So anyways, Allie and Jenny both have, switched over to doTERRA, and I want to speak on their behalf as well to say that like they were going to do this to serve you guys regardless of that. Upon their own research and digging and praying and stuff, they did decide to get started with doTERRA, but their hearts really are to just share the truth with you, as are mine. But again, we know that some of you guys are looking to get some products that you can trust that your family needs, and so each of them, some of you are here from Jenny's audience, some with Allie, and so were you guys going to have they're going to send out email, right?
Yeah, and we also have it in our links in our bio. We have links in there in the Instagram bio.
Well, they'll get information sent to you if you are someone who wants to get started. We also have a promo code for you guys for a couple free oils and stuff. So that will be outlined in the information that is sent. One thing I'll say just to, so it's easy right now. I think their links will take you to a empty shopping cart that has the one-time $35 membership fee in there. And if you add products to the cart, they'll of course be wholesale price that are 150 PV or more. You will actually, that $35 membership will zero out. So you with the membership free. And then you can use the promo code as well. Another thing, if you were someone who was coming from Young Living who used to earn an income there, or maybe that's something you want to share this with other people, another thing exclusive to our team is actually an affiliates program where you can just share links and get paid and not have to deal with MLM stuff. Because I get it. Even though I'm a fan, I know not everybody is. So that's something we can talk to you about. That's exclusive to our team just because it is actually still in pilot. So you would be able to be a part of that as a pilot. And so let's see. Oh, and then the other stuff I just want to say with our community is you have us, I know you guys have Jenny and Allie here, but if anybody, ever wants to chat with me, I'm happy to talk with you as well. We have a lot of customer resources for both customers or, affiliates or business builders, whatever, that we just a lot of education, things we can plug you into. And again, you just have my word that I will question doTERRA. I have questioned doTERRA. I get on calls with corporate all of the time to clear things up, to get answers. And they really have even said to me on many different calls, we feel like as corporate and as executives, we work for you. They literally said you guys are in the field and we would be nothing without you. And so you matter and your opinions matter and things like that. So anyways, I think that was pretty much everything. You guys will get a bunch of resources sent after this. So,
and one thing I know going in from one company to another and people, might think oh, well, they did this and then bashed Young Living and now they're pushing doTERRA. Honestly, we're just answering hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions that come to us through our social media accounts. We got together, we're hey, let's answer everything. Let's dig through everything and do this. And the fact that actually, Jenny and I got these affiliate links because we came in exhausted from having to defend Young Living for the past year, or trying to explain to people, or constantly having people come at us with questions about the company. So if you're hey, I'm just going to back up, I don't want to do any of this, do that. I told you at the beginning, use your discernment, pray. If you need to literally step back and I want nothing to do with oils, don't do anything with oils. Seriously, we're just here to tell people, hey, if you want to continue with this wellness journey and you need another option, there is an option available out there. And again, this affiliate program is for anybody who's I don't have time to build a business. I do not want to be part of MLM anymore. I do not want to be in team calls. I just don't have time. That's the opportunity, because a lot of influencers, content creators out there use a lot of other brands and use our affiliate links. This is the same thing. And what the beautiful thing is about this is that doTERRA doesn't behave in a way Young Living does. You only talk about our product, and that's all you're allowed to talk about. There's been I'll attach accounts of other Instagram people who are now putting out more stuff. And guys, there's so much more to this. We're at 2 hours and we just barely, I feel touched on what's happening right now with consistency, with people having rashes, with people having side effects, with oils being different colors that are the same exact oil, with labels constantly changing, with presidents of Young Living changing and them going under and operating in the red. So there's much more information content available that we will link. Anyways, so again, everything will be available for you to look through, to read through. I know this has been a long one, but again, I feel we literally just touched on little pieces here and there. If you have any more questions, you can reach out to Jenny at Jenny Instagram, Jenny Meyer, correct?
Okay, so that's kind of the end of it. I would, even though they do have the affiliate option, I would not encourage that, because you are still, they're still part of MLM structure, kind of like Tupperware, how Tupperware is now being sold in Target, and until they completely move away from the multi-level marketing structure, purchasing their products is still supporting them overall. So that's just something that I would not recommend, and a lot of people wouldn't either. That ultimately, though, is your choice, but highly encourage you to not support multi-level marketing companies, even if they have a non-multi-level marketing branch going on. So y'all, that was 2 hours. Thank you so much for being here. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much again to Mombi for sharing, for allowing us to just kind of use this content and just talk about it. She shares so much information on her Facebook page and on her channel. If you haven't followed that, be sure to check that out. Yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I will see y'all next time. Remember not to join MLM, and you can strive for health without subscribing to diet culture. All right, I'll see y'all later. Bye. Yeah. Oh, yeah. More companies are doing both MLM and non-MLM to get the benefits of both. And so if they're doing MLM, I just kind of stay away from them. So, all right. Bye, y'all.